more presentational. In a few places we'll be doing pieces that you may not know. That shouldn't stop you from singing them, but you should know that I don't always bring in music that you don't know that lasts a little longer than the versions that you do know. And a couple of the pieces we're doing have a great deal of charm, and I think you'll quite likely enjoy them, but certainly Joseph and I do. So we're going to begin with Matovu on page 117. Please rise. Please be seated. We thank you, O God, for this new day, for morning sun and evening star, for flowering of tree and flowing of tide, for life-giving rains and cooling breezes, for the changing seasons, for the cycle of growth and decay of life and death. Let's read this together. We awake and behold a new day. O God, renew us unto life. Teach us to recognize your presence in creation. Grateful for your gifts, may we dedicate all our lives to your service. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, pokeach ivrim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Malbish Arumim, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Matir Asurim, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Zokef kefufim, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, She'asa li kol tzorki. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Hanoten la'yarev koach. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Hama'avir she'na me'enai, U'tnuma me'afapai. Baruch she'amar ve'haya ha'olam, Baruch Hu. We're on page 119. Praised be the one at whose command the world came to be. We praise you, our God, sovereign of the universe, worshipped by your people, lauded and glorified by those who love and serve you. With songs of praise we extol you and proclaim your sovereignty, sole source of the life of all worlds. We praise you, sovereign God. With the coming of the day and night I will enter the covenant of God, and when the evening and morning depart, I will recite God's decrees. God Most High, you are my righteousness. You teach me goodness. You are the fountain of knowledge, the dwelling place of holiness, and the summit of glory. Eternal might and majesty are yours. I will choose whatever you teach me, gladly accepting your judgments. As soon as I move my hands and feet, I will praise your name. When I go out and when I come in, when I lie down and when I rise up. When I rest on my bed, I will sing your praise, and in the company of my friends I will praise you with the words of my mouth.
Tov le'adon la'Adonai, v'lezamer l'shimcha elyon, v'lezamer l'shimcha elyon. L'chakir ba'avot le'chaslecha, v'le'emunatcha ba'delot,
Should
ישתבח שמך לעד מלכנו, האל המלך הגדול והקדוש, בשמיים ובארץ. כי לך נא אדוני אלוהינו, ואלוהי אבותינו, שיר ושפחה, הלל וזמרה, ברכות והודאות, מעתה ועד עולם. ברוך אתה אדוני, הבוחר בשירי זמרה. And we turn to page 135. La 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 המאיר לארץ ולעדרים עליה ברחמים, ובטובו מחדש בכל יום תמיד מעשה בראשית. מה רבו מעשיך אדוני, כולם בחוכמה עשית, מלאה הארץ קניינך. תתברך אדוני אלוהינו על שבח מעשה ידיך, ועל מאורי אור שעשית יפארוך סלע. ברוך אתה אדוני יוצר המאורות. Great is your love for us, eternal God, and abundant your compassion. Our ancestors trusted in you, and you taught them the laws of life. So be gracious to us and teach us. Incline our hearts to hear your words, to know and understand, to learn and teach, and with love to uphold the truths of your Torah. Enlighten us with your teaching, make us faithful to your commandments, and wholehearted in the love and awe of your name. For in love you summon us to serve you and proclaim your unity. We praise you, O God, and love you with all your people of Israel to serve you. Please stand. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levacha v'chol nafshecha v'chol meodecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'eleh asher anochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha ושמעתם לבבך ודיברת בם, ושבתה בראשך, ובלכת בדרך, ושבת במנהלך, ושבת במלאכת ידיך, והיו לטובות עיניך, ומצבת מזוזות ביתך, ובשעריך. Please sit. למען יזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, Vitem Kedoshim Levoechem, Ani Adonai Elohechem, Asher Hoseti Lechem Be'eretz Mitzrayim, L'hiyot Lachem Le'Elohim, Ani sound, established, and enduring are these words now and forever. True it is, Eternal One, that you are our sovereign God and Redeemer, as you were the God and Redeemer of our ancestors. You are our Maker, the rock of our salvation. We have known you always as our helper and our liberator. There is no God but you. Truly you are first and you are last. We have no Redeemer but you. You redeemed us from Egypt and freed us from the house of bondage. Then with great joy, Moses, Miriam, and all Israel together sang to you this song. We're on page 140, and we rise now for the Tefillah. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi tehillatcha. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi tehillatcha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu ve'Imotenu Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, Ve'koneh HaKol, Ve'zocher Chasdei Avot ve'Imahot, ומנהיג גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו ואהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, וחיי ביתים אתה רב להושיע. משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מזריח השמש ומוריד הטל. מחלקי חיים בחסד, מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים. סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשמי עפר. מלחמות בעל גבורות ומלחמך, מלך ביתי ומחיי ומצמיח ישועה. ונאמן אתה להחיות מתים, ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים. We sanctify your name on earth as in the prophet's vision the hosts of heaven sing your praise above, for so it is written. God's glory fills the universe. From your concealment, majestic one, reveal yourself and rule over us, for you are our hope. Please be seated. You inspired our ancestors to hallow this day for your service. When upon its coming, we pause to contemplate our life, we learn anew that we do not live by bread alone, but also by the spiritual nourishment we receive when we open ourselves to your influence. We thank you for the Sabbath day and for the opportunity it offers to enhance the quality of our lives. We thank you for its joy and for its peace. May our worship help us to take into our hearts its message of holiness and consecrate all our days by devotion to what is true, beautiful, and immortal.
ישמחו במלכותך, ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי שבת וקוראי עונג, המקדשי שביעי, המקדשי שביעי, כולם יספרו ויתענגו בטובך. בשביעי עשית בו וקידשתו, ובשביעי עשית בו וקידשתו. תמתת ימים אותו קראת, זכר למעשה
It's hard to compete with that. Our God and God of our ancestors, may our rest on this day be pleasing in your sight. Sanctify us by your commandments and make us loyal to your teaching. Satisfy us with your goodness, gladden us with your salvation, and purify our hearts to serve you in truth. In your gracious love, Eternal One, let the holiness of your Sabbath enter our hearts, and may all Israel who hallow your name be exalted by its peace. We praise you, O God, for the holiness of the Sabbath.
R'tzei Adonai Eloheinu be'amecha Yisrael, u'tefilatam be'ahava tekaber, u'tehi leratzon tamid, u'tehi leratzon tamid, Avodat Yisrael Amecha, Baruch atah Adonai, sheyotecha levavecha, v'yir'ah
hu Adonai Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu, Le'olam va'ed. Tzur chayenu, v'magei yishenu, ata hu l'dor v'dor. וזכר תהילתך, על חיינו המסורים בידיך, ועל משמותינו הפקודות לך, ועל ניסיך שבכל יום עמנו, ועל נפלאותיך ותורתך, שבכל עת ערב הבוקר וצהריים. ברוך אתה אדוני, הטוב שמך ולך נעלה להודות.
Shalom, tova uvraka, en v'chesed rachamim v'rachamim aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, amecha, barteinu avinu kulanu kechad, ve'or panecha, ki bar panecha, Adonai Eloheinu Shalom, Sim Shalom, Tova Uvracha, Chen v'chesed v'rachamim v'rachamim aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, amecha, Torat chayim ve'ahavat chesed, ve'ahavat וצדקה וברכה ורחמים וחיים ושלום. שים שלום, טובה וברכה, חן וחסד ורחמים ורחמים עלינו, ועל כל ישראל, ועל כל ישראל עמך, וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שים שלום, טובה וברכה, חן וחסד ורחמים ורחמים עלינו, ועל כל ישראל, ועל כל ישראל עמך. ברוך אתה אדוני עושה השלום.
We take a few moments now for our own silent meditations. turn in our Sidurim to page 481 for the service for reading of Torah.
Ein kamocha ba'Elohim Adonai, ve'en kemasecha, malchutecha malchut kol olamim, u'memshaltecha bechol dor v'dor. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed, Adonai osano yitein, Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Adon Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo, Gadol Adonai iti, Unromena Shemo Yachdav.
Please be seated. Our reading today is from the portion known as Terumah, and you'll hear that word very quickly in the portion itself, which is why it's named that. And I think this listing of luxurious materials was in its way as appealing and moving to our ancestors as reading the list of all the wonderful appointments in the house you're about to buy. Oh, it's got this, it's got that, it's got very exciting things. It meant something special to them. It was the center of, or it was about to be the center of worship for a people who were about to be unified over the course of time by the rituals that were being created in the portions that we're reading around this time. There's some complexity around that, which we'll talk about a little bit later, but you'll hear all the names of all these precious and rare materials as we read this section. For those that happen to be in, although I'm going to read the translation later anyway, if you happen to be in this English version of Tanakh, you'll find it on page 123. We're reading Exodus 25, verses 1 through 16.
The page in the Sonsino.
I don't have that page. Does somebody have it? 500. Yeah. Yamod la Torah Oh, that's you. Bat Moshe. Eliyahu.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamavorach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamavorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noteinu haTorah.
Amen. Vaydaber Adonai el Moshe לאמור. דבר אל בני ישראל ויקחו לי תרומה. מאת כל איש אשר ידבנו ליבו תיקחו את תרומתי. וזאת התרומה אשר תיקחו מאיתם זהב וכסף ונחושת. ותכלת וארגמן ותולעת שני ושש ועזים. ואורות אלים מאודמים ואורות תחשים ועצי שיטים. שמן למאור וסמים לשמן המשחה ולקטור את הסמים. אבני שוהם ואבני מילואים לאפוד ולחושן. ועשו לי מיטש ושכנתי בתוכם. ככל אשר אני מראה אותך את תבנית המשכן ואת תבנית כל כליו. וכן תעשו ארון עצי שיטים 2.5 אורכו ו1.5 רוחבו ו1.5 קומתו. וציפית אותו זהב טהור מבית ומחוץ תצפנו. ועשית עליו זר זהב סביב. ויצקת לו 4 טבעות זהב ונתת על 4 אמותיו. ושתי טבעות על צלו האחת ושתי טבעות על צלו השני. ועשית בדי עצי שיטים וציפית אותם זהב. והבאת את הבדים בטבעות על צלות הארון לשאת את הארון בהם. בטבעת הארון יהיו הבדים לא יסורו ממנו. ונתת אל הארון את העדות אשר אתן אליך. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Tell the Israelite people to bring me gifts. You shall accept gifts for me from every person whose heart so moves him. And these are the gifts that you shall accept from them: gold, silver, and copper, blue, purple, and crimson yarns, fine linen, goat's hair, tanned ram skins, dolphin skins, and acacia wood, oil for lighting, spices for the anointing oil, and for the aromatic incense, lapis lazuli and other stones for setting, for the ephod and for the breastpiece. And let them make me a sanctuary that I may dwell among them, exactly as I show you, the pattern of the tabernacle and the pattern of all its furnishings, so shall you make it. They shall make an ark of acacia wood 2.5 cubits long, 1.5 cubits wide, and 1.5 cubits high. Overlay it with pure gold, overlay it inside and out, and make upon it a gold molding round about. Cast 4 gold rings for it, to be attached to its 4 feet. 2 rings on one side of its side wall, on one of its side walls, and 2 on the other. Make poles of acacia wood and overlay them with gold. Then insert the poles into the rings on the side walls of the ark for carrying the ark. The poles shall remain in the rings of the ark; they shall not be removed from it. And deposit in the ark the tablets of the pact which I will give you.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. With our Sefer Torah before us, we think of those in our community who are ill and also those who care for them. If there's someone who's ill that you'd like to be recalled at this moment for strength and healing, please say that name aloud as I look your way.
has any plea and her husband nil.
Cynthia Green.
Vivian Lacroix.
Misha Berach Avotenu Avraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov Imotenu Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leahu Yivarech v'Yirapeh et kol hacholim ha'ele v'nomar Amen. May the God who blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebekah, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal all those in our community who are ill, and we say together,
Amen.
Yamod Hamagbiya v'Hadbolelet. Please rise. Yes. Baruch Shenatan Torah le'amo Yisrael ikedushato. Sometimes it's easier. Please be seated. Talmud Hamaftira. That's me.
Thank you.
The Torah this morning, which I had lost my place. Oh, no.
Here you go.
Our Torah this morning from JPS is Kings 1, chapter 6, verse 26, on pages 525. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam, asher bocha banu b'im todim, u'v'atzei v'revahem ha'ne'emorim b'emes. Baruch atah Adonai ha'barocha b'torah, u'v'moshe avdo Yisrael, amo, avnadi'ei u'emes b'tzedek. The Lord had given Solomon wisdom, as he had promised him. There was friendship between Hiram and Solomon, and the two of them made a treaty. King Solomon imposed forced labour on all Israel. The levy came to 30,000 men. He sent them to the Lebanon in shifts of 10,000 a month. They would spend 1 month in the Lebanon and 2 months at home. Adorim was in charge of the forced labour. Solomon also had 70,000 porters and 80,000 quarriers in the hills, apart from Solomon's 3,300 officials who were in charge of the work and supervised the gangs doing the work. The king ordered huge blocks of choice stone to be quarried, so that the foundations of the house might be laid with hewn stone. Solomon's masons, Hiram's masons, and the men of Gebal shaped them. Thus the timber and the stones for building the house were made ready. In the 480th year after the Israelites left the land of Egypt, in the month of Ziv, that is, the second month in the 4th year of the reign over Israel, Solomon began to build the house of the Lord. The house which King Solomon built for the Lord was 60 cubits long, 20 cubits wide, and 30 cubits high. The portico in front of the great hall of the house was 20 cubits long, with the width of the house, and 10 cubits deep at the front of the house. He made windows of the house recessed and latticed. Against the outside wall of the house, the outside wall of the house enclosing the great hall and the shrine, he built a storage structure, and he made side chambers all around. The lowest chamber was 5 cubits wide, the middle one 6 cubits wide, and the third 7 cubits wide. For he had provided recesses around the outside of the house, so as not to penetrate the walls of the house. When the house was built, only finished stone, cut in the quarry, were used, so that no hammer or axe or any iron tool was heard in the house which was being built. The entrance to the middle story of the house, the chamber, was on the right side of the house, and winding stairs led up to the middle chambers, and from the middle chambers to the third story. When he finished building the house, he panelled the house with beams and planks of cedar wood. He built the storey structure against the entire house, each story 5 cubits high, so that it was encased, the house from timbers of cedar. The word of the Lord came to Solomon. With regard to the house you're building, if you follow my laws and observe my rules and faithfully keep my commandments, I will fulfill for you the promise that I gave to your father David. I will abide among the children of Israel, and I will never forsake my people Israel. When Solomon had completed the construction of the house, he panelled the walls of the house on the inside with planks of cedar. He also overlaid the walls on the inside with wood from the floor of the house to the ceiling, and he overlaid the floor of the house with planks of cypress. 20 cubits from the rear of the house, he built a portion of cedar planks from the floor to the walls. He furnished it interior to serve as a shrine, as the Holy of Holies. The front part of the house, that is the Great Hall, measured 40 cubits. The cedar of the interior of the house had carvings and gourds and calyxes. It was all cedar. No stone was exposed. In the innermost part of the house he fixed a shrine in which to place the ark of the Lord's covenant. The interior of the shrine was 20 cubits long, 20 cubits wide, and 20 cubits high. He overlaid it with solid gold. He similarly overlaid the cedar altar. Solomon overlaid the interior of the house with solid gold, and he inserted golden chains into the doors of the shrine. He overlaid the shrine with gold, and so that the entire house was overlaid with gold. He even overlaid the gold in the entire altar of the shrine, so the entire house was completed. In the shrine he made 2 cherubim of olive wood, each 10 cubits high. One had wing measurements 5 cubits and the other wing measurements 5 cubits, so the spread of the wing to wingtip was 10 cubits, and the wing spread of the other cherub was also 10 cubits. The 2 cherubim had same measurements and proportions. The height of one cherub was 10 cubits, so that was that of the other one cherub. He placed the cherubim inside the inner chamber, since the wings of the cherubim were extended. A wing of the touched one wall, and the wing of the other touched the other wall, while their wings in the centre of the cherub chamber touched each other. He overlaid the cherubim with gold. All the walls of the house, of both the inner area and the outer area, he carved reliefs of cherubim, palms and calyxes, and he overlaid the floor of the house with gold, both the inner and the outer area. For the entrance of the shrine he made doors of olive wood, the pilasters and doorpost having 5 sides. The double doors were of the olive wood, and to them he carved reliefs of cherubim, palms and calyxes. He overlaid them with gold, hammering the gold into the cherubim and the palms. For the entrance of the great hall too, he made doorposts of polyester wood, having 4 sides, and the double doors of cypress wood, each door consisting of 2 rounded planks. On them he carved cherubim, palms and calyxes, overlaying them with gold applied evenly over the carvings. He built the inner enclosure of 3 courses of heavy stone and 1 course of cedar beams. In the 4th year, in the month of Zib, the foundations of the house were laid, and in the 11th year, the month of Bul, that is, in the 8th month, the house was completed, according to all the details and all its specifications. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech ha'olam, sur kol ha'olamim, tzadik b'chol hadoros, ho'el ha'ne'emon, ho'el ha'ne'oseh, v'hamidbar, v'umakayim hasher ha'kativor, shekol devorov, emes v'tzedek. Al ha'torah, v'al ha'vadah, v'al Nevi'im Yal Yom HaShabbat Hazeh, Shenasaton Lonu Adonai Eloheinu, Likudusha V'Limnucha, V'Chavod M'Sefer Oretz, Al HaKol, Adonai Eloheinu, Anachnu Modin Loch, U'Mevorachim Harsach, Yisbarach Shemcha, V'Fi Kol Chai Tlamim, V'Olam, Vored, Baruch Atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat.
We're now on page 484. Eternal God, whose dominion embraces the universe, we ask your blessing for our sovereign lady, Queen Elizabeth, and all the royal family, for those who govern our country and all who influence the quality of its national life. Make them conscious of their responsibility and teach them to exercise it in accordance with your will. May we all help to fashion in this country a society that excels in freedom and justice, tolerance and compassion, so that it may be a force for righteousness and peace in the life of humanity. Eternal God, as you blessed our ancestors in generations past, bless now this congregation, its leaders and its members, and all who enter this synagogue to meet, to study, and to pray. Comfort the sorrowing hearts among us and heal those in anxiety or pain. May we all find here community and friendship, renewal of purpose and hope, a deeper understanding of our heritage, and a sense of your abiding presence. Bless all congregations of the House of Israel throughout the world. Let those who live under oppressive rule soon be freed, and may we all unite to witness to your truth and do your will. Eternal God, our rock and redeemer, grant blessing to the state of Israel, created to fulfill an age-old dream and to be a haven for the oppressed. Inspire its leaders and citizens with faithfulness to the aims of its founders, to develop the land for the benefit of all its inhabitants, and to implement the prophetic ideals of liberty and justice. May they live in harmony with one another and in peace with their neighbors, and cause to come true once more the ancient vision that out of Zion shall go forth Torah and the word of God from Jerusalem. Amen. We're on page now 486. Yahalelu et Shem Adonai, ki niskav Shemo levado. Hodo al eretz v'shamayim, vayaren keren le'amo, tehila lechol hasidah, livnei Yisrael, am kerovo. Page 488. God's teaching is perfect,
Dividing the soul,
God's word is unfailing,
making wise simple,
God's precepts are right,
enlightening mind,
God's commandments are clear,
enlightening eyes,
God's doctrine is pure,
enduring forever,
God's guidance is true.
altogether just.
Lekach tov natati lachem, Torati al tazovu, et chayim lama chazikim ba, v'tomcheha meusha, deracheha darcheno.
Please be seated, except if you happen to have a birthday in February. May I see those? So please rise if you have a birthday in February. Well, that's pretty good. This is a great month for this community. Yes.
I missed out on January birthdays.
If you missed out on January birthdays, that would be me also. Oh, okay. I'll take that January blessing any old time.
Yeah.
I have trouble getting that over my head, but well done. First up, I know. מי שברך אבותינו אברהם יצחק ויעקב ואמותינו שרה רבקה רחל ולאה. May God, who blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebekah, Rachel, and Leah, bless all those who come before the community today to mark their birthday this month and last month, with reverence for God and respect for the Torah. Grateful to you for the gift of life which they have enjoyed to this day, may HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy Blessed One, continue to bless them with length of years, good health, the pleasures of Torah study, and the profound satisfaction that comes from a life of ma'asim tovim, of good deeds. In celebrating this and other birthdays, may their example remind us that people may count the days of their life, but a person of wisdom makes every day count. And let us say together, Amen. Amen. And we have the priestly benediction, the threefold benediction of the Torah. Yevarechecha Adonai ve'yishmerecha, Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichunecha, Yisa Adonai panav elecha, Yasem lecha shalom, 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 Yasem lecha shalom, shalom, ve'yasem lecha shalom, 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 Yasem lecha shalom, shalom, ve'yasem lecha shalom. Mazel tov. So our portion for this week, as we noted earlier, is Terumah, and we read about the commandment to build and decorate the tabernacle. The portion begins with God's commandment to Moses to tell the Israelites to bring gifts from every person whose heart so moves him, and let them make me a sanctuary that I might dwell among them. Exactly as I show you, the pattern of the tabernacle and the pattern of all its furnishings, so shall you make it. Our sages ask two principal questions about this enterprise. First, why does God tell Moses to command the people to do this? And secondly, when in the narrative, in the larger Torah narrative, does this occur? The two questions, of course, are related because in order to know why God commands this, we would kind of want to know where it happens in the story, which event seems to trigger it. I think there's another question going on here, too, for progressive Jews, which is, well, why do we care? I mean, it sort of comes to mind at some point. And I think there's two levels of why do we care. There's the level, why do we care about all this detail? And then the larger question, what do these ancient texts mean for us? Is there something in them that speaks to us specifically that makes it worth studying them? So when I say our sages said, you might say, well, who cares what they said? One could say that. We usually don't. We're not so critical of that tradition, but it's worth interrogating, and to some degree, that's going to be where I go with it today, but it is a larger question. What can sacred texts, and what makes them sacred, and what makes them speak to us today, particularly in a case like this, where essentially we're reading builders' plans. So, among the events that occur around this time, we're told of the golden calf, the smashing of the first set of commandments, the internecine struggle that followed, and the giving of the second set of commandments, which constitute a kind of forgiveness for the golden calf. At what point does God command the giving of the gifts and the building of the sanctuary? And in view of that, what seems to be the purpose for it? So here's the order of events as they occur in the Torah. Moses ascends to Mount Sinai. Then God commands the building of the tabernacle and the investiture of Aaron and his sons. There are more instructions for the building, a recapitulation of the importance of Shabbat, and then the golden calf episode, God's rage and forgiveness, followed by a retelling of the construction details, and then the building project itself, and finally a financial audit of the budget for the building. Now our sages were uncomfortable with that order of events. It didn't make sense to them. And some of them believed that Moses was commanded to build the tabernacle only after the people had worshipped the calf and were finally forgiven. According to this view, the order of the portion should be the people create and worship the golden calf and are almost destroyed by God's anger, and then the commandment to build the tabernacle, and then the continuation of the instructions for it, and the investiture of Aaron and his sons as priests, followed by the recapitulation of the instructions and the building project itself, and finally then the accounting of the precious metals used in the construction. That's not how it is in the Torah, but that's the order that our very important commentator Rashi supports. The rabbis long said that there is no chronological order in the Torah. It doesn't matter whether it comes first or second, for instance. There's no late and early in reading the Torah. That's an interpretive practice. And Rashi agrees with this, so on his reading, the tabernacle then becomes a symbol of God's forgiveness and a concession to human frailty. The golden calf incident demonstrated to God that the people needed something material in addition to an abstract God, and so God gave it to them on the basis of, they demonstrated their inability to accept it, and he said, okay, build me a sanctuary, it'll be a nice place, you'll be able to look at that, it'll be on my commandments, so you know it's an okay thing to do, as opposed to the golden calf. But even if the Torah doesn't have to be interpreted according to the strict chronology, one ought to have a pretty strong reason for reading it outside of its apparent chronology. Because otherwise, why wasn't it written in the appropriate order to begin with? Ramban, who's a later interpreter, follows this way of thinking. Why should we transpose the words of the living God? But in that case, if God doesn't command the building of the tabernacle in order to forgive the sin of the golden calf, then what's it for? So if it's not forgiveness, and not because of human inadequacy, why does God want it to be built? The subtext of Rashi's reorganization of the events is that there's no reason why God would need a building to appear in. Rashi's already living in a time, the 11th century in France, when God's role is established, not just for Jews, but in a way for Christians and Muslims as well, all those who follow this continuation of the sense of who God is. It's the God of our scripture that becomes the God of other people's as well. So Rashi knew this. Why then would an all-powerful God who dwells on high want this luxurious but clearly modest dwelling? This came to my mind, it's like if some billionaire tycoon, in addition to his mansions in New York, Paris, London, and Los Angeles, also kept a bedsit in Dudley. It just doesn't make any sense. On Ramban's account, the tabernacle wasn't about human frailty, it was there from the beginning. A deliberate act of divine grace designed to strengthen the reality of the divine presence. God always figured on doing this. The plan was interrupted by the sin of the golden calf and God's anger about it, but afterwards the plan went on as before. And that kind of makes sense too, doesn't it? There's the golden calf, oh, everybody gets all bent out of shape, oh my God, and now we're back on track to do what we originally planned. Ramban could not accept the idea that the tabernacle, with the wealth of detail, and you remember in the reading all these wonderful things that you're going into it, the dolphin skins and the gold and the silver, how could that be a secondary role? In Judaism, it might be just an afterthought. Oh, I suppose you guys need this, so we'll build this. It had to be something, on his account at any rate, more significant. So on Rashi's account, God doesn't need an earthly dwelling place, but orders one built after he sees that the people need some kind of physical symbol. On Ramban's account, God does need the dwelling place. It has nothing to do with the golden calf episode, because he planned the building of it before that occurred. And Ramban's view is supported by the simple fact that it follows the order of the text as given to us by God through Moses, both of whom presumably were there when it happened. So if they knew, why, that's what they would have written. But in that case, God must have wanted this thing built for a reason, and not the one that Rashi says. So both these commentators knew two other things about the tabernacle. It wasn't established at its permanent location in Jerusalem until long after the events that are recounted here. And by the time Rashi and Rambam lived, it had long since been twice destroyed, first by the Babylonians and then by Rome. So they knew that as much as God may have wanted it, it was temporary when it was first commanded, and by the time they came along, it no longer existed, and was therefore clearly impermanent. Rashi's reordering of the text takes some of the sting out of that fact. If it had been built for its time, for the imperfect children of Israel who sinned with the golden calf, then it's no criticism of God's power that it didn't endure past their immediate need. But Rambam's reading requires a reason for the building that is on the one hand an eternal element of God's will, but on the other hand somehow accepts that God's eternal word doesn't stand forever, which is distressing. You would think that if God says do this and then we do it, it would stand forever. So there's a place in the text where we read, and you heard it a couple of times, let them make me a sanctuary that I might dwell among them. Now from this, we can infer that God had always intended to create, through divine command, the human effort. God can't be brought close to humanity without both humanity and God working towards it. But notice this, it says that I might dwell among them. If the focus of God's commandment is the building of the temple, of the tabernacle in this case, then it would say that I might dwell in it. Build me a temple and I'll dwell there. But it's not what it says. The focus isn't on the sanctuary, it's on the relationship between God and the people as they were at that time. So it's kind of startling. At this crucial moment in the encounter between God and the children of Israel, the relationship is already dynamic. It's already moving. It never stands still. Mordecai Kaplan, who's the founder of Reconstructionist Judaism, observes that we tend to associate that which is most stable with the highest degree of holiness. If something lasts forever and never changes, it must be more significant and worthy of our worship than something that changes over time. And that's exactly the sense of discomfort we have when we realize that this tabernacle is impermanent when it's built and destroyed twice in its permanent location. How can this be? Kaplan says it's a misunderstanding. Only that which is dynamic, which evolves and changes without losing its identity or continuity, is authentic. It's not a new idea. The pre-Socratic philosopher Heraclitus of Ephesus, who lived in the 6th century BCE, said, everything changes, nothing remains still, and you can't step into the same river twice. Have you heard that? Yeah, so the only thing that's unchanging is change. That's what's eternal, the flow of time. It's a great book, incidentally, by that title, by the physicist Carlo Rovelli. I understood a third of it, but it was a very interesting third. So there's something ironic, and I think in a good way here, that the heart and center of Jewish life and thought is the Torah, and buried within it is this characteristic of constant change. It's already there. It's not that we have this eternal manual of how to live our lives. We refer to it a little bit in the text of in the Siddur. We value all the stuff about Torah and its eternity. Yes, it is eternal, but it's eternal in a way that allows us a place in it. It's not eternal truths, but a constant requirement to confront the reality of the world we actually live in and the contradictions at the heart of our own existence, to see them as they actually are and deal with them with the wisdom that we have been granted. So we might wish that the Torah gave us certainty about the answers to questions we have about how to live authentic lives, Jewish lives, or just good lives in general. Go and read the Torah and you'll know everything. No, you'll know that you don't know everything. That's, in a way, what I like to think of as the subtext of this, which is what makes it more interesting. Because what pieces of it become eternal, if you like, and what pieces of it are ours to deal with. Much tougher than just doing whatever was done before. There are quite a few people who think that the Torah is that kind of blueprint. But true authenticity is exactly the opposite of that. It's the need to actually look and see what's in front of us and within us, and then make decisions that will, yes, be based on traditions that contain genuine meaning. Because of the brevity of our lives, those understandings and decisions are always going to be imperfect. We're never going to be any more right than our ancestors. Remember, the children of Israel who built the golden calf and were killed in large numbers because of it had seen the miracle at Sinai. How much closer can you get to God than that in biblical terms? And they messed up. So, will we? Guarantee we're going to mess up. But we keep on changing the way we navigate. In a way, I'm not a sailor, but those who are will know that you don't go in a straight line in a sailboat. You tack according to the way the wind is actually blowing. That's our reality. And when we tack in one way or another, the possibility of error is always there. But that is the risk that we take. But we also live with an awareness of, if not eternity, okay, at least something beyond tomorrow's breakfast. There is something else besides what we're doing now. We don't have the option then not to try to understand the world and to make a difference in it, even though it never stands still. And so this ancient text, which seems so distant from our lives today, reminds us that our lives are brief, but not without significance. And what we think and what we do matters. And so I say Shabbat Shalom to you, because, among other things, you came today, you showed up. And showing up, who was it? Woody Allen, who said 90% of life is showing up. So making that choice to physically be here is something that matters. It matters to all of us. It matters to the continuity of our tradition and the ability to join together and share this Shabbat Shalom and what's turning into actually quite a nice day, although I had nothing to do with it, is reason perhaps to rejoice, as well as somebody who, every time she comes in, reduces the average age of this place by quite a bit. Thank you for that, and be with you. So, we now turn in our Sidurim to page 520 for Aleinu. Please rise.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר ראשית, אשר שם חלקנו יוחד את שמו, וגורלנו להמליך מלכותו. ואנחנו קוראים, ומשתחווים ומודים, לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. שבונות השמיים ויסד הארץ, ומשב יקרו השמיים ממעם, ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אלוהינו, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, כך כתוב בתורתו. וידעת היום להשבות אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים מן העל, ועל הארץ מתחת עינו.
trusting in you, eternal God, we hope soon to behold the glory of your might, and false gods will vanish from our hearts, and idolatry cease forever. Help us to perfect the world by bringing it under your unchallenged rule. All who invoke your name, relinquish evil, and turn to you alone. May all who dwell on earth come to know that to you every needless end becomes our responsibility.
Before you let them humble themselves, and to your glorious name let them give honor. Let all submit to your sovereign rule. May that time come soon and last forever. The ultimate sovereignty is yours, and to all eternity you reign in glory, as is written, the eternal one shall reign forever.
The growing good of the world is partly dependent on unhistoric acts, and that things are not so ill with you and me as they might have been is half owing to the number who lived faithfully a hidden life and rest in unvisited tombs. Even when they are gone, the departed are with us. They inspire us to live as in their higher moments they themselves sought to live. We remember them now, they remain in our hearts, they are a continual blessing. And this Shabbat, we are particularly conscious of those whose yahrzeit we mark today. Les Applebaum, David Bellman, Arthur Batista, Mark Cohen. Sorry, I'm going to start again and follow the custom that we have of naming the relationship as well. Les Applebaum, brother of Mavis Carr. David Bellman, father of Andrea Gohill. Arthur Batista, remembered by a member of our community. Mark Cohen, father of Shirley Ariel. Ray Crabb, sister of Rhoda Cohen. Patsy Gelman, mother of Janine Spencer. Lily Gruen, mother of Jackie Gruen and Zoe Gruen. Rosalind Hart, first wife of Paul Hart. Brian Latchman, father of Celia Hipgrave. Estelle Milner, sister of Marie Capitelli. Susan Saunders, wife of Victor Saunders. Mervyn Winston, first husband of Brenda Hunt. And our member and friend, Frankie Green. If there are any names to add to those lists, or any name you would pronounce differently than I did, please say it aloud as I look your way. Zichronam livracha, may their memories be for a blessing. We join together in Kaddish on page 524.
Yitgadal v'yitgadash Shemei Rabbah, v'yamad yirah yirtzei v'yamit machusei, v'chayechon v'yomechon, v'chayech kol Beit Yisrael, v'alav yizman karev yimru amen, v'yesh Shemei Rabbah v'barach v'rachman v'yomah, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitbarach v'yishmam v'yitnaseh, yitgadal v'yitalel v'yitgadal Shemei v'yishab v'yechu, Le'ela mincha v'chata v'shirata, tushpachata v'nechamata, Damiram v'yamav v'yibru amen, Yehi shalom rabba mishmaya, V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'yibru amen. Oseh shalom v'yirah, Uyeh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'lekel v'le'am, v'yibru amen.
May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to the bereaved among us, and we say,
Amen.
please be seated. Have we announcements?
Yes. You've got the Shabbat notices. Shabbat notices.
We are going to be doing in a few moments a version of Adon Olam that you may or may not know. It has a refrain. The first verse comes back. So sing that even if you don't know it, and then keep on singing it as it returns if you don't know the tune.
Okay. Right. Meanwhile, before we do that, I'd like to thank Gershon again for a wonderful musical uplifting service, well accompanied by Joseph and Micah. Thank you very much again. Thank you. It was a really, really marvellous service. And you will be asked again.
Oh, well, so.
Okay. Just a couple of announcements for future services. This Friday, it's Esther, who's actually on Kiddush duty now, is contemplative service. It's more of a meditative, quieter service. It helps you kind of get in the mood for Shabbat, so that's this Friday. And next Saturday, I believe Joseph's taking the service. Hopefully it's not a surprise to you, me saying that.
Surprise.
Have a look, if you want to have future services, always have a look at the Shabbat notices. If you on email and don't receive them, let me know and I can get the office to forward all the details. One other announcement I need to mention is about the communal Seder. We're hoping to have it, but we need a certain amount of people to make the event viable, and the deadline is actually today. So if you do want to come along, let the office know. It could be the difference between taking place or not. The proposed date is Thursday, 9th of April. That's me done for announcements. Any others? Any announcements?
Yes. I'll take the privilege of being shamas to thank Gershon again, because I found, I'm sure that everybody thought, listening to these descriptions of the tabernacle in the wilderness and the temple in Jerusalem, we'll be moving again very soon. Yeah. And I was wondering if our architects had ever thought about blueprint in the first book of Kings. And the other thing that occurred to me was that all this gold is very soft, and the weight of the ark with whatever was in it on little rings and wood, how long was that going to last? So I was wondering whether this was the thinking part of it. Yes?
The gold was overlaid. In other words,
It was overlaying.
Gold leaf around a
Yeah,
scroll.
but can you imagine how it rubs off if you're holding it?
Yes, where's the way at the time?
Anyway, the point is, I think we all got the message that we are wandering peoples, and it's a good thing. We move on, we go forward. So thank you very much for drawing that to our attention and for the beautiful music between you and Joseph.
We had fun.
Whether you were able to join in or simply enjoy listening, it was wonderful. Thank you very much indeed.
And now we turn in our Sidurim to page 525 for Adon Olam. And as I said, whether you know it or not, just sing.
Adon Olam Hashem Anav, B'terem kol Yetzir Nivra, Le'et Nasa, V'chet Zakor, Azai Melech Shamo Mikra, Be'acharei Yimloch Zakor, Levado Yimloch Nora, ממשיכו להכירו, ולי ראשית ולי תכלית, ולא העוז והמזרח. אדון עולם השם עליו, בטרם כל יציר נברא, ועת נוסף וחץ הכל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא. והוא אלי וחי לי, וצוחק לי בעת צרה, והוא ניסי ומגוס לי, ומתפוסי ביום אקרא. אדון עולם אשר מלך, בטרם כל יציר נברא, לעת נשא וחץ הכל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא. וידו אפית רוחי, ועת ישכן והירא, ואם רוחי גלי עשי, אדוני לי ולא יירא. אדון עולם השם עליו, בטרם כל יציר נברא, לעת נשא וחץ הכל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא.
Baruch atah b'voecha u'baruch atah b'tzeitecha. Blessed may you be when you come in, and blessed may you be when you go out. And we say, Amen and Shabbat Shalom. Sorry. Thanks.